So normally I'd begin a session with the prayer, so I'll do this prayer in Tibetan, Padan Soe Lama Rinpoche. Tagi Chiwar Pede Drinjula Kadrin Jember Kanye Jizunte Kuzun Tujing Adrip Sound. So this course is about the paramitas, and paramita, the word literally means param is like going to the other, and mita is shore. So it's like at the moment, if we face the situation, we're all in some kind of distress or suffering. Yeah, we're not enlightened. So this shore is the shore of suffering, and the other shore is beyond suffering, like nirvana, for want of a better description. So the course is about the paramitas. There are 6 paramitas. The first 5 are all about compassion. The 6th paramita is about wisdom. And it's said, a beautiful metaphor, the paramitas are like the 2 wings of a bird. If a bird has one wing, it can get into a flap, make loads of effort, but get precisely nowhere, and is in distress as well, because it's trying to get somewhere and it's getting nowhere. So, imagine like compassion without the eyes of wisdom. Like blind compassion is like, a heroin addict asks you for some money and you think, they say it's for a sandwich, but then they go and score heroin. So you've not helped that person at all. Although you've been giving, you've given them money, it's generosity, but it's not the paramita of generosity because it doesn't have wisdom. Do you see what I mean? So all of these 6 are interconnected, just like the 2 wings of a bird. So if you have wisdom, like you could be thinking, I'll never speak to anybody again, I'll just meditate. But then you're just hiding from the challenge of meeting other people and them winding you up. So in a way you're very vulnerable because you're hiding. But also, you could become a little bit like what they call disassociated. You could become a little bit cut off from reality. Or the truth, even. Cut off from the truth. So the whole deal is like the bird with 2 wings. The compassion is the first 5 paramitas. The other wing, the 6th paramita, is the wisdom. And just to remind ourselves, like what they are almost like a progressive journey. So we begin with generosity and gratitude, establishing a healthy relationship with the world, like to be well connected, yeah? Like rather than being ill-connected. Like if you're on your smartphone for 8 hours a day, I'm sure nobody here in this room is on there. But, so the irony is, you're trying to connect. Yeah? Have I got a good signal here? You're trying to connect. That wish to connect is what is disconnecting you. Who is this I that is already well connected, that is trying to connect? You're adding an extra layer of confusion. And that's why it's so addictive. It seems so real, but it's not true. Which it could be a whole half-hour teaching, to be honest. But the thing is, we're well connected already. So the paramitas is just beginning with generosity and gratitude, establishing like a healthy connection with your world, like so that you're well connected, not ill-connected to, like, say, your anger or jealousy or fear. So energy follows focus. Neurons that fire together, wire together. So we're training the mind, like the garden of the mind, to look after the seeds that are beneficial, like the seeds of gratitude. So if you cultivate gratitude, it becomes a habit. So you could go on a 15-minute gratitude scavenger walk by the river and look at the primulas, hear the birds singing, maybe see some moths or butterflies. And the mind, you train the mind to look for the good. You train the mind to look for the helpful. And then, just like if you train to look for the colour red, then you'll be quicker to identify red eventually. So the paramitas, you're training the mind to be grateful and generous. So it's like you give and you get. So you're in flow, you're in symmetry with your world. You're not disconnected anymore. You're giving and you're receiving. So then the evolution, this goes into the second paramita, which is ethics, or moral discipline. But what it's saying is, if you're connected, like, don't, give alcohol to somebody trying to give up alcohol. So there's an ethical side to the generosity, also not to harm yourself. And you train the mind to, even lifting spiders out the bath or something like that. You're training the mind to respect life and not to do harm. So it's just training the mind. And then the evolution journey, and which I'll be focusing on, the third paramita, has got 5 words, which I'll try to remember. So it's like patience, forbearance, tolerance, acceptance, and inclusivity. So I think this word inclusivity might resonate a lot with people here. Inclusivity. And this is like training in training the mind to think bigger. So I think I could explain that for the rest of this session, yeah? The third paramita. Because it might be needing to be explained. Generosity and ethics, relatively simple. But what is being got at here is something I like to call big mind or big heart. Okay? Now, say in Zen Buddhism, there's a story that the disciple goes to the master and says, "Master, tell me what is suffering." And so the master says, "Well, go to the kitchen, get a glass of water and the bowl of salt and come back." So he does that dutifully. So the master says, "Put a teaspoonful of salt into the glass of clear water, stir it, and then have a drink." So of course the disciple, you do what the master says. So, pretty yucky, eh? So, and, okay, so then, thank you, so then the master says, "Well, now take the teaspoonful of salt and take it to this nearby lake," or in Scotland it would be a loch, wouldn't it? Freshwater loch. So put the teaspoonful of salt in the loch and then bring back a glass of water from the lake or loch. So this time the disciple comes back, and of course a teaspoonful of salt dissolves in the lake, so he can't even taste the salt. So big mind is like thinking bigger, thinking inclusively of the bigger picture. So the Buddhist way of dealing with trauma is to reframe the context, is not to think just of what is hurting you, like thinking of the salt, but thinking of all the things that are not salt. Yeah? Because the habit of it's not our fault. Yeah? It's not our fault. But because of evolution, we have a genetic predisposition. There's a lovely phrase, isn't there? Everyone, all the 8 billion people on the planet, have got a genetic predisposition, a cognitive bias, if you will, a cognitive bias towards remembering the bad things, danger. Because when it was like lots of predators, it was better to be safe than sorry. So you kept on, even if 10 things were good, you'd just keep remembering the 11th thing that was potentially dangerous. So even, if you watch half an hour of news, that's pandering to this cognitive bias. So it becomes a habit to see the bad and to think depressively even. So the good news is, even though it's not our fault, we've got this cognitive bias, we can retrain our mind to put things, to see the bigger picture. To see the bigger picture, yeah? That it's not all bad. It's like, I call it welcome to myopia. Myopia is like where you're short-sighted, isn't it? So if you're just seeing the salt, if your mind is very small, a teaspoonful of salt seems huge in a glass of water. And that's like myopia. You're very short-sighted to say, "Oh, everything is terrible." It's because we're not using our mind properly. We're not seeing the bigger picture. There's lots of good things happening, and gratitude helps you remember the good things that are happening. And ethics reminds you that just because things are rough, you don't have to be harmful to yourself. You see, they fit together like pieces in a jigsaw puzzle. So this inclusivity paramita is saying a lot, really. It's saying we can give up this egocentric habit of me versus the world. Yeah? So it's like transcending duality, transcending dualistic thinking, of being obsessed with, what's in it for me. You could think in a relationship, what's in it for us? How about that? That would be a win-win situation. Of course, on one level, it's good for me. If I'm in a relationship, it's good for me and it's good for the partner. But it's not either or, it's inclusivity, it's and. It's good. It's good for me in the short term, it's good for the partner in the short term. But and, in the long term, it's like, it's a win-win situation. It's a sense of everyone's included. It's not like we're trying to create a bubble in a relationship. It's just us and the world. Like a lot of Hollywood dramas, aren't they? It's like everyone, the movie ends with a bubble, like the couple sort of winning the lottery and everybody else like getting kind of murdered or something. A Hollywood plot line. So it's not like that. I'm thinking I could quote half a dozen movies there. So it all fits together. This inclusivity is big mind, big heart. And let's take this back to the story of the puppy dog. Do you remember from yesterday? So it's autumn. Say I'm walking in a lovely forest. In the distance I see this little adorable puppy, But I'm curious, I go closer, and it's not what it is, it's absolutely worn out, and then it starts yapping at me. So thinking exclusively, then I think, horrible puppy, I'll go up to say hello. Normally dogs like me, but this time it's barking furiously. But supposing you're trained in big mind, big heart, to be inclusive. So last weekend at Samiling, there was a Lama teaching here, Ringu Tulku, and he was teaching the 4 immeasurables. Immeasurable is big mind, yeah? Beyond limits. Limitless love, limitless compassion, limitless joy, limitless equanimity or peace of mind, yeah? So there's a whole weekend course on that. And where does that fit in with the paramitas? It's within the 3rd paramita, this paramita. Inclusivity is thinking beyond egocentric grasping. Yeah? So say you're trained in the 4 immeasurables. So when you come to the puppy, you think, well, the first thing is you remember, don't believe everything you think. So I think this puppy is maybe coming from a traumatic background and it's, I want to forget about it or something. But if you're trained in love, first of all, instead of the first reaction pattern is hostility because it's being hostile. But because you're trained in love, you send love to it even though it's barking at you. Then the compassion, you remember, just like me, the puppy wants to be happy, just like every human being wants to be happy. But at this moment it's suffering. So then you're feeling empathy and compassion. And thinking bigger, you could think, well, I'm calm, I'm not going to run away. So instead of being stressed in fight-flight mode, instead of just turning away, I'll move closer, so that a safe distance away. So I will approach the suffering rather than run away from the suffering. Courage. The courage to do that. And then, magically, the wind blows away all the autumn leaves, and then you see that one of the poor puppy's legs is caught in an illegal rabbit trap. So then you can be compassion in action. You can go to the house of the friend 2 miles away, get some gardening gloves, come and, with some pliers and extricate the puppy, take it to a vet. So it's a win-win situation, and you can feel sympathetic joy. You can rejoice, like in your goodness, like saving the life of the puppy in distress. But also the puppy's quite grateful too, to be liberated from the trap. So of course this is like a metaphor. All human beings are caught in the trap of karma, the karmic trap of conditioning, so that they're caught up in suffering. So instead of thinking in a very limited way, we can think inclusively. And this is the paramita where we apply the 4 limitless meditations: limitless love, limitless compassion, limitless joy, limitless equanimity. So of course, this paramita is around inclusivity, but it also takes a lot of patience to act like that, a lot of forbearance not to just run away from suffering. It takes a lot of tolerance to not go with your reactive patterns. The whole journey of mindfulness in 3 words is almost like the journey from being reactive to being responsive. So your tolerance and acceptance of like the whole situation, not just a limited view of it. And just to put it in context, now the first 3 paramitas set you free from the habitual conditioning of being sort of mean or feeling poverty-stricken, set you free from bad behaviour, set you free from being very divisive. So then you have a lot more energy, and then begins the training in the 5th paramita, mental stability or mindfulness training. And the mindfulness training benefits hugely because you've got the foundations of the first 4 paramitas. You've got self-respect, you're generous, you haven't got a guilty conscience to plague you when you try to meditate, of thinking, oh, I should have said this or that, or 10 years ago I should have been this or that. You're more in the present because you can let go of the past, because the past lets go of you because you're ethical. And you're living in the 4 immeasurables in this inclusivity world. So meditation is much easier, and then you can get a window into understanding the 6th paramita, which is wisdom. So this is a very ancient way of putting it, this teaspoonful of salt in a glass of water or in the ocean. So the Buddhist way of dealing with trauma is to go beyond like petty-mindedness or just thinking too much of just what's in front of your nose. You know, most animals can only think about what's going on in front of them. Humans have the consciousness to go beyond and have a different perspective. Okay, so that's like like a gentle reminder of the journey of the paramitas. So we could finish the video there. And if anybody has any questions or doubts, then I'm very happy to answer before we do some more meditation.